And our first guest tonight, we're going to be looking at some organization that is seeking to help communities by empowering them and helping them with a 5 million rand interest-free loan. Starting a business is not easy, we all know, especially if you need some cash injection. So, Inyosi Empowerment is running a loan funding competition where black-owned small, medium, and micro enterprises, also known as SMME, could win an interest-free loan of up to 5 million rand. This competition is aimed at celebrating the positive impact the loan funding can have on the growth of SMMEs and how this in turn, spurs on job creation and economic growth in South Africa. So Inyosi Empowerment has more than a decade's worth of experience in facilitating black-owned businesses with access to capital, markets, and skills. So tonight we're going to be talking to him, Mr. Evan Jones, who is the portfolio manager of Inyosi Empowerment, to understand more about this program. And then at about 22:08, Zulu, she runs in company yakhe ebizwa ngokuthi Zamukelo Pty Ltd, which is based khona lapha kwaMashu kwaG. Yokuzokhumbula at some point last year, an organization, an NGO, ebizwa ngokuthi Domino Foundation, they were assisting in facilitating and rebuilding some small businesses which were affected by the unrest that we saw taking place KwaZulu-Natal in the province, and through a campaign called hashtag Rebuilding KZN. So Uzamukelo Pty Ltd, they are amongst the businesses that were identified, and they were awarded some monetary assistance. And you remember which we announced that here, Vuma FM is all about the money. So we are asking the question, have they finally recovered from last year? Maybe now we might want to ask a question to one of our guests, and maybe you want to contribute about what we're talking about tonight and all the headlines that we're about to share. Please do call us on 0861010300, no more shy level 0659337172. That will be your WhatsApp line.
Stream us live on www.vuma.
Sekisa ukuthi imininingwane yakho izovikeleka futhi ngeke inikezwe izinkampani zangaphandle.
All right, Enterprise and Supplier Development and business loan funding provider known as Inyosi Empowerment is approaching the end of the exclusive loan funding competition. If you haven't heard, Inyosi is providing a black-owned businesses with an exciting opportunity to win an interest-free business loans of up to 5 million rand. We speak to Mr. Evan Jones, who is the portfolio manager of Inyosi Empowerment, to understand this program much better. Good evening and welcome to It's All About the Money, Evan.
Good evening to you and your listeners, and thanks so much for having me on your program.
Well, you're bringing us some good news. We're calling it Glad Tidings. Please tell us about your organization first as to what it is that it does, Inyosi Empowerment.
Yeah, absolutely. So Inyosi is a specialist enterprise and supplier development business. We have about 500 companies who've invested with us, and we essentially lend into black-owned businesses. So that's our business model. We've been doing that since 2012, and since 2012 we've advanced almost 1 billion rand in about 340 deals.
Wow. It's such an exciting program that you're launching. But now you're telling us about, let's start maybe understand your loans, your loan book. How does it function?
Yeah, so maybe just to your listeners to understand, the kind of businesses we look for are 51% or more black-owned businesses, but they must have a 3 to 5 year track record as a minimum. So we're not really, we're not a startup funder, so we get a lot of requests from people who have got a great idea and they need someone to back them. Unfortunately, we're not good in that space. We don't really have that ability to figure out if someone's going to, their good idea will turn into a good business. But where we are quite strong is if you've got a business with a 3 to 5 year track record that we can see that your business is doing really well, the businessman or business person knows what they're doing, but they are strapped or they're constrained by lack of cash or funding, then we can come in and provide that funding to make that business grow. And typically we provide loans of somewhere between 3 to 5 million rand for 3 to 5 years. That's our typical target market of our loans.
Well, our small businesses, they have challenges, and most of the time it would be the credit bureau, or maybe they might not have collateral to access, funding from the traditional 4 banks. How different is your program?
Yeah, so I think we're quite similar to the banks from a security point. I think one of the big I'll try and explain that I think you and your listeners will know and recognize that there's this risk and return where if you have high risk, you look for high return. So what that means in the lending space, typically, it means that if you've got 2 businesses that are very similar and the one has is deemed to be higher risk, normally what would happen is that the financial institution would normally charge it what is known as a risk premium. So would charge it a higher interest rate. And the intention there is to try and say, well, if I'm going to lend to a risky business, then I really need to try and add a risk premium in case that business defaults, right? And across a portfolio, that makes a lot of sense generally. What we worry about when we look at that is that we think that if you've got 2 businesses and the weaker business typically is the higher risk business, but it's weaker because typically it has weaker cash flows. In other words, you're then going to be charging a business with weaker cash flows, higher interest rates. So we don't like that so much. So we try and peg our interest rates at a very affordable rate, and then from there we look to try and mitigate our risk by really understanding the business and by essentially also looking to get good security and making sure that the business owner also accepts the risk, takes on the risk, provides personal sureties or other forms of collateral, so that we know that because at the end of the day, as a lender, you're not taking equity in the business. You're hoping to lend into a business, and then you're hoping that business repays you. So I think it's quite important that which we do. We spend a lot of time working with the business owner to try and understand how their business works and how we can help them.
Inyosi Empowerment, surely you do seek to get more clients. How would you vet? Is there a process maybe that you use to distinguish between? I mean, there's a plethora of small businesses that are looking for funding.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a really good question, and it's quite a difficult thing from our side. I'm told that the ad spend across the financial services industry is more than R1 billion per annum. Now, we're a very small, very, very small company, right? So we have a very, very small marketing budget. And unfortunately, the reality is that even though our clients or our potential investees, the borrowers, are normally not the target market for the big banks, the big banks' message drowns out our small advertising budgets. So I think what we've tried to do, we've been lending for quite a while, so we have a lot of companies who, because they've borrowed from us, they tell their friends and other business people that they know, and then we run a number of different interventions where we try and profile what we do and why we think we're slightly different to conventional funders.
And also, there is a program that many are maybe perhaps familiar with, which is known as YES program, Youth Employment Service. We remember our president also launching that particular portal where the youth can also apply for jobs. I believe you have been an implementing partner for this program as Inyosi.
Yeah, we actually have. We're into our 5th year of doing that. And again, it's quite a nice model. So if you can imagine, we've got currently over 100 borrowers on our books, so people we've loaned money to. And we've got some very big corporates who've asked us to implement their YES program. And so let's assume that their YES program is, 50 people, 50 youth that they would like to get quality work experience. What we do is the way YES works is that the company that undertakes YES would pay for the youth employment for a year. And I think you and your listeners will know that one of the most globally, right? This is not in South Africa only, but globally, the most difficult job to get is your first job, because you pitch up as an entrant into the job market, and you're like, okay, can I get a job? And the guy says, well, or the person says, well, I can give you a job, but what experience have you got? And you say, well, I don't have any experience. And they say, well, I can't give you a job unless you get experience. So you're always in that Groundhog Day. So the YES program's a really good one. And let's say we talk about those 50 jobs, the 50 youth. What we would then do is we would go through our beneficiary base. So we would go to our borrowers and say, do you need jobs, paid for jobs for a year? And we actually place those people into the businesses that we funded. And what that actually effectively does, it actually provides a working capital injection into our borrowers. And that makes the borrower actually a stronger company, because it doesn't have to pay for those salaries. And because it's a stronger company, effectively, it means that they can repay the loans easier. So it's also a way of us trying to protect the portfolio. So to some extent, it obviously assists the corporate that we working for, but it assists all of our investors because it minimizes the risk across our portfolio.
Bullseye.
In case you're wondering, I'm having a conversation with Evan Jones. He's the portfolio manager of Inyosi Empowerment. Inyosi Empowerment is an enterprise and supplier development and business loan funding provider, and they are now approaching the end of their exclusive loan funding competition, of which I'm going to ask him now to tell me about this competition. Mr. Jones, could you please just share some light about this competition, how long it's been running, and how to qualify for this interest-free business loan of up to 5 million rand?
Yeah, thanks very much for that opportunity to tell your listeners about it. It's a really exciting opportunity. Essentially, we are asking companies who fit our profile. So you have to be 51% or more black-owned. You have to have turnover of less than 50 million. And these are all legislated requirements. They're not our requirements. And then you need to have a track record of 3 to 5 years. And on our website, which is www.inyosi.co.za, you can actually just click on the website and you'll see that there's a link immediately from the main page to a page where you can upload information about your company. Obviously, it's important that companies who apply to us, they need to have annual financial statements for the past 3 to 5 years. They need management accounts. We need to assess your company. And there's a whole list of things that we need there. And essentially, the prize is actually up to 5 million rand interest-free loan. Now, if you just take a rough, work on 10% interest rates. The interest rates are not as high as that, but just work on 10%. That's a 500,000 rand saving a year for 5 years. That's a 2.5 million rand saving. So it's a really, really, really nice program. We opened the competition up, I think, towards the end of early in September. I think early in September, and we're closing it at the end of November. We've had a lot of companies who are interested. What we're then going to be doing is going through and picking out the top 3 company, and there's obviously a first, second, third prize, but the first prize is the 5 million rand interest-free loan for up to 5 years.
Is there a particular criteria that perhaps you're going to use to select?
No, I think obviously we're just looking for companies so we occupy a sector of the market which we call kind of development finance. We're very interested in making sure that a business that comes to us actually is in a position that they can borrow the money and they can repay it over a 5-year period. So it's very important for us to really for the company that is looking for funding must be in a position that it can afford that funding. Because a lot of times companies who do end up coming to us are desperate because they've been to the banks and they've been to the DFIs, they've been to the DFI is a development finance institution like the IDC or the DTR or something, and they can't get help there. So they end up with us, and they obviously by that stage they're really desperate, and often they will be asking for money that they maybe their business is not able to afford in terms of liquidity or solvency kind of thing. So those are the aspects that we will look at.
Money is not too cheap lately. I mean, we've seen all over globally interest rates are going up, inflation is out of hand. What's your rate?
Sorry, I didn't get it. Would you just say that again, please?
What is your rate? We're looking at the inflation. It's out of hand, and money is obviously not too cheap. How much do you charge in terms of interest rate?
Yeah, so obviously for this competition, it's an interest-free loan. So normally our interest rate is around prime plus 1.5, but for the competition, it's an interest-free loan.
Oh, interest-free loan if it's part of the competition, but if it's not?
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, and looking at most funders, they tend to just give you money and you on your own, you throw into a deep end. Is there post-investment support?
Yes, we essentially think our business has got three legs. The one is the funding, which we've spoken about.
Mm-hmm.
The second is, I indicated at the start that we've got about 500 companies who have invested with us.
Yeah.
And they are looking for black-owned suppliers and black-owned companies to assist them. And so we have a portal called iHive, www.ihive.co.za. And what we try and do with that portal is we try and give access to the companies we provided funding to and give them, sorry, there's a bird in the background here.
It's nature.
Everyone's going home. So we try and give them exposure. We try and give our exposure to our corporate investors. And the reason for that, again, is very simple. If we've loaned money to a company and we can give that company exposure to markets, they can get more business, they can make more money, and they can repay their loan. So the intention there is to try and help them expand their business, which is again a risk mitigation from our perspective. And then the final leg that we've got is that we do have some money which we assist once we lend to a borrower, we will then ask them whether there are any shortcomings in their business. And if there are, and we believe that by fixing those shortcomings, it will enhance the business, then we will provide them with up to 50% grant funding towards fixing that issue. So let's assume that they've got a problem with health and safety and they need to send someone on a health and safety course and that's going to cost 20 grand. We'll contribute 10 of the 20 grand because we think that having a competent health and safety officer will put you in a better position from a risk point of view as a company, and also you may pick up contracts because you can demonstrate that you're on top of your health and safety. And again, the reason for doing that is to try and make sure that the borrower improves its position, gets more contracts, and is able to repay the loans.
All right, it is now 18 minutes before 8 o'clock. Vuma FM, adult radio for the young at heart. If you're joining us for the first time, hello. And you are someone who loves making money and you love managing it, you've tuned in to the right show. It's all about the money, Monday to Thursday. We look at business, personal finance, and wealth management. And we also do invite industry experts like Mr. Evan Jones, who's on the line. He is the portfolio manager of Inyosi Empowerment. They are looking at empowering communities by giving access to SMME, access to money, and up to even an interest-free loan. There is a competition running until the end of the month. We continue with this discussion when we come back.
Bullseye.
Our daily coach, Portia Ntlantla. Tonight we are talking about compliance. And right now on the line, I'm with Mr. Evan Jones. He's the portfolio manager of Inyosi Empowerment. We're looking at what is it that they can provide and they can do for you and I, especially if you are a black-owned business. Now, Mr. Jones, talk to us about your offices in KwaZulu-Natal, if you do have, and also if one needs to access you within KwaZulu-Natal, how do we reach you?
Sure. So I think the easiest way to get access to us is we have a website, and go on our website. We've got a lot of videos that you can see. I think for me, business is very simple, right? Typically, my role tonight is to try and tell you all the good things about what we do, and your role is to do similar sort of things to me, right? So, but the reality about business is once we start transacting, we get to see exactly how we run our businesses, respectively. And so on the website, you will see a lot of videos from companies that we've lent money to, a lot of our borrowers. And you're more than welcome, though. You can see who the companies are. If you have any, if you'd like to find out a little bit about us without asking us, find those companies, give them a call, give the business owners a call, and I think that you get a very consistent message from them as to how we transact and how we deal with our borrowers.
Now, talk to us about your funds, because I know you're not only just giving out money, but you also do work with potential investors.
Sorry, I didn't quite get that. You said we don't only provide loan funding, but we also do. And then
also we do work with also potential investors, people who might want to invest, but they don't have a database or maybe access to the right businesses. I believe you also give access to that for investors.
Yeah. So as I indicated, we have got if you're talking about giving people access to markets, I have spoken about the iHive. If you're talking about investors with us, really our investor base are corporates who are looking for a competent enterprise and supplier development partner. And because we've been going since 2012, we've got many of our investors have been with us for many, many years and are very happy with the way that we deploy their capital and provide loans using their capital to black-owned enterprises. So I think we have a nice long track record of a demonstrable track record of being able to show that we provide the kind of funding to black-owned businesses who otherwise would simply not be able to access that funding.
Now, and also, I'm more interested in that Enterprise Development Fund in particular for the ICT development solution. As you know, everyone is looking forward to the 4IR that everyone is talking about. And we've also seen that young people, seemingly, they are interested in the information and communication and technology sector.
Sorry, I really have to apologize.
Our line is very horrible. Well, if you could just hear me before I let you go, if you could just share some light with regards to Inyosi Enterprise ICT Development Fund.
Okay, sure. So it's actually a really interesting fund. That fund focuses specifically on ICT businesses. So we've been a funder. I'm not sure if your listeners and you are aware. There's a fantastic business called Salulu. They provide internet training, Microsoft training to primarily school leavers. We've been a funder of Salulu and a number of their franchises for many, many years. And then there's another business in there that we've been funding for quite a while now as well called Maropa Site Solutions. And what they do is they're appointed by Telkom to help Telkom with their deep rural cell phone reach program. And we provide the funding to put up the Telkom towers. And that's a really exciting program as well, because I'm not sure if you're aware, but the one instinct that humans never lose is our instinct for communication. And so it's really important for people to be able to communicate with each other and to the broader world at large. And the deep rural cell phone tower program that we help fund is a crucial one for rural villages and towns and stuff. And in that portfolio there are many more ICT businesses. But that specific fund, we focus exclusively on ICT businesses, and the investor base would be our ICT companies who require exposure to black-owned ICT companies.
Well, Evan, I think you're coming with good news indeed. Surely, I'm hoping also that our listeners will definitely go on to www.inyosi.co.za. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very, very much to you and your listeners. And also I know we're approaching the festive season, so all the best for that as well.
All right. Thank you so much. All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Jones. All right. He's the portfolio manager of Inyosi Empowerment.